Hello and welcome back to the Faz and Lowgy channel. Today we're working on the final episode of the city build here in Skysaga, and we're going to be working on the city and trying to get it finished because the end of alpha is right around the corner. I'm going to be talking you through what I've been working on and how I'm going to be finishing this build for the end of the alpha, and yeah, let's get straight into it. So the first thing that I did was I started to work on some buildings. Now of course to finish off this build I'm going to need to add quite a few more buildings, and this is what I'm going to be doing in the first part of this video. So the main feature of this building at the front that you can see is its roof. I went for a really slanted roof that I'm going to be using shingles to make. I also made the second floor slightly extended over the first floor to the left. Here you can see me placing in some shingles, and I just used brown wood shingles. Next it was time to work on two smaller buildings at the back of the build. They're not going to be in the forefront of your vision when you're looking at the city, but they are still important when you're walking around, so, you know, I gave them some love, but I didn't give them as much love as, say, some of the other buildings that are a bit closer to the front. They are just boxy buildings, they don't really have any special features or any, you know, craziness. Like I said in one of my earlier videos, the detail is in the fact that there are lots of buildings rather than each individual building's own details. Just placing shingles on all the roofs to make sure that they all look proper and finished. Then it was time to do some detailing around the grey areas of the floor and to make sure that they were covered in the wood just like everything else in the build was. Okay, so now it's time to build this building, and originally I wanted this building to be a library, and I think that is what it is. It is a library, but it's not going to get an interior. Unfortunately, I don't do any of the interiors to the builds, I just simply didn't have enough time, so sorry about that. I did get all of the exterior stuff done though, you'll see that towards the end. But yeah, this is the library, and I wanted to do something unique with the front because these buildings are a lot bigger than the other buildings that I've been building, and when you have a bigger building you just have more space to play with, more space to put details, more space to do things, and so that's what I wanted to try and do, get some more interesting buildings going. To make this building look more interesting, I sort of pushed some parts back, I pulled some parts forward, had different sort of layers and stuff. That's a really good tip for when you're making a building. Don't place flat walls. Try and make your walls dynamic, make them come out in places, go in places, make sure there's things cut into them, and of course you can always change the colour, and by adding, you know, different types of wood or stone as well. I started planning for a very large roof, and it's going to look really cool when it's done. We just make sure that we're creating that that peak shape so that we can lay down our shingles later. Then it was time to come around to the side and do a very similar thing. Again, I'm using parts that stick in and parts that stick out. I'm sort of cutting into the sides one block deep just to create a bit of difference. On this side bit here, I really like the way that the one block sticking out part attaches to the bridge, and you'll be able to walk directly from the bridge into the library. I make a little space for a door down there, and I add in all the wood, and then I cut in all the windows, where the windows are going to go. And that is the main shell of the library. So before I did anything else on the library, I came over to this other building. And I'm not entirely sure what this building should be. I was thinking it'd be like an administrative building, or like a government building. I don't know. This building could be something to do with like a secret agent force. I don't know. Maybe like it's like the MI6 or the MI5 of this city. The secret agents doing secret things in this building. Because it's a bit bigger than the normal buildings that I was building, I went for something a little bit different detail-wise. Again, I was pulling parts in, pushing parts out. I was trying to make it look really interesting and dynamic on the front of this building. Cut in the windows, and then I just kept adding levels. I knew I wanted this front piece on the left that sticks out to be a balcony above the 3rd floor, so I went for that, and I created these like hollow archways that would open up to be a more open balcony area. Just for a bit of difference, I decided to change up some of the stone on these extruding parts to be brown instead of orange, just so we had 2 tones in this building. At this point, I'm just building the front face of the building, and I like to do that a lot. I like to build a front face to know what I'm sort of going for with the building, and then I'll come in and I'll build the sides and the back in the same sort of styles. I went for orange shingles, so an orange roof on this build, and you're going to see I do another very large peaked roof for this. But I do change up the roof slightly by adding in a different angle of roof, so the whole thing isn't just one giant peak. So we've got 2 different peaks at 90 degrees to each other, and I just feel that created a nice difference to the roof on the left, which would just be a single peak. So you can just see me working on the sides of the spy building over here, and just make sure I got the wood in so that I could then place in the blocks. I also made sure that I had the roof blocks down so that I could place the shingles on top. That's a really good tip for if you're placing shingle roofs or clay tile roofs in Skysaga. Make sure you put a layer of blocks down first, because it's going to make your life so much easier when you come to place those decorations. So now it was time to work on this huge area that I'd laid out for a big sort of like town hall-y, I don't know, government building. And yeah, it was time to make a lot of details. So I wanted this building to do the same sorts of things on the buildings that you've just seen. I want them to pop in, pop out at parts, have lots of windows, have some distinct features, and just generally be very big and imposing. So I started by just building everything up really basically, lining it with some wood and cutting in some windows. And, that's the best way to start. Just start with the simple features that you want, and then start adding in those crazy details a bit later on. I had this idea to have these red seams going up the front of the building, just for a bit of difference and just to, make the build look more dynamic and interesting. So I did that, and I placed these sort of seams. You'll see them better once I start putting more of them in. With this building, it was really just a case of repeating the same thing over and over again. There's a lot of similar structure on the front face of this building. Again, I'm keeping those red seams running through the building. I really like the idea of having these coloured seams. Like I did on the columns, I created yellow colours to go into the patterns, and with this building it's red running up through the building. That looks kind of cool. Then it was time to change things up, so in this clip you're going to see me adding some red blocks to the building. I wanted to have two different colours because what I wanted to do was have those seams leading into red blocks, almost like they were attached. So you're going to see me trying to work with that kind of thing in the future. And I do it in an interesting way, hopefully. I raised the centre to be more of like a central tower. I wanted it to be really tall and big and the tallest part of the build, and then for the sides to sort of be a bit lower. So here you can see those red blocks that I'm placing. I wanted these to be their own unique faces. I'm still using the brown blocks behind them on the other faces, but you know, the front ones are accentuated in red. And I laid out the roofs for those red areas. Simple peak roofs. I mean, to be honest with you, because I was using shingles for roofs, I couldn't really play around with the shapes of my roofs too much. They kind of have to be these 45-degree steeped roofs. You can see that this building is going way over the 5 stories that the building next to it is. If you count the windows, you can see that there's a lot of height here. Now here we go, here is the face of our large building, and now we're going to be working on the middle tower. Now originally I wanted to shift the idea so that this could be a lighthouse and it could attract boats to the city because of the changes that I'm going to be making later on. But you know, I didn't want to put it as a lighthouse in the end. I just wanted it to be a cool towering structure in the middle of the city. I did in the long run have a cool idea, but I don't want to spoil that just yet, so we'll talk a little bit more about this tower in a little while. I am showing you what I was doing here, but I am just going to warn you that I did not keep this design of tower. I went and overhauled the tower later on and I changed everything about it. But I wanted to show you this because it could give you some good ideas. Maybe in the future you might want to use something like this, and it's good to see like the idea of how I was layering over these blocks to try and create patterns to make the build look more interesting. They kind of look like Space Invaders, I'm not gonna lie. It looks like I was drawing Space Invaders on the sides of this tower, now that I look back. So, I'm not going to show you the rest of the tower because obviously I'm going to be changing it, like I said. So what I am going to be showing you is a before and after shot of this part of the city. So that was before, and this is after. If you didn't notice the changes, well, there's a couple new window sections on some of the roofs, including the very slanted roof. And of course, I changed the orange building at the front to have a simpler roof. There's a before and after shots of this left-hand part of the city, and you can see that we basically took away all of the white roofs and replaced them for black logs. This is my little warehouse, and because of the change in white roofs, this also needed a bit of an upgrade. Also, the building itself wasn't made of shingles, and you know, because everything else is made of shingles, we needed to change it. So here is the improved warehouse roof, complete with the lovely brown shingles. Now we're back to the tower, and you're going to see me demolish the tower and rebuild it. It was looking weird, it was looking stumpy and alien invadery, but we changed it. But first, before we changed it, I had this cool idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a roof section over the street towards the tower, and then we're going to coat it with red shingles as a nice roof. And here it is, here's it finished, and it extends all the way from the door of the big government town hall building to the tower, which we are now rebuilding. I had this new idea for the tower, and that was that I wanted it to be like a marketplace, like a central marketplace. So into the base of the tower, I built all of these areas where I'd be putting canopies, and below those would be all the different shops that people are going to be selling things from at the base of the tower. I wanted the top of the tower to have these sticky out bits and be more rounded, and that's what I did. And then I wanted to go up higher and have like a central towery bit with all the roofs peeking inwards. You'll see what I mean. It's hard to explain. Here we go, here's a look at the tower completed. We've got lots of roof parts and it looks very nice. Now we're going to talk about the other half of the city that we never got round to building. Now with Alpha ending, there just isn't enough time to complete this half of the city, but I wanted to show it to you because I wanted you to know my ideas and I wanted you to be able to imagine what it would have looked like if it was finished. I mean, if I could finish it, it would have looked insane. We would have had a whole nother side to the city, it would have looked so busy and it would look so cool. And, you know, I'm kind of gutted that I couldn't get to finish it, but Alpha ending is just a good sign. It means that Beta is coming, so, you know, I can't be too upset. Anyway, so we got rid of this whole area. We're just going to round the city off now. And what I was going to do is just make it sort of one half of a city. So now that it's clear and empty, you'll be seeing that I'm going to manipulate the build to be more of this half city instead of a full city that I intended. Originally, I thought I would be making the columns isolated and not joining them. But I am going to join them in the end, and you're going to see they're going to be really fancy and really big, and I am going to join them, and it took a lot of brown blocks. What I'm doing right now is I'm detailing the column. Obviously, I want it to have this really cool, like ancient, detail-y design to it, so I've been playing around a lot with the columns, and you're going to see me working on them, and I hope you like them. So, this is what the column looks like when it's finished, and I thought this was super cool, and what I wanted then to do was to carry it over all the way to the other side and replicate it on that other column. Now you can imagine that in my original build, I was going to have 4 of these columns going around the whole U-shaped city, and I would have loved to have done that, but because I couldn't do that, I still wanted to show you what I was going to do with the columns just on this half of the city. So, here it is. This is what it looks like. It's this huge, imposing, ancient-looking structure well above the city, and originally we would have had, you know, a whole row of them around the top of the city, but we didn't quite get round to that. But at least we've got it on this half, so it still looks like a cool border. Because of the way I'm changing the city, I decided to manipulate this area into being a port. The whole city is going to be a port city. This area is the main arrival area, and it's going to have loads of gangplanks where loads of ships are going to be docked. I took away the giant disc we built originally because it's just not going to work for what I was intending now. Plans have to change as, you know, as the build adapts. So you can see all around the city now I've created these long, like, boardwalks, these long plank areas where we're going to be attaching our airships. This is very crucial. So this is me just doing a little bit of detail work. This is me experimenting with the details. Now the city is not looking very alive. It's not looking like anyone actually lives in the city. It's pretty much a ghost town, and that's not what I want. I want the city to look busy. So I went around to this square and I decided to just add a load of decorations, and you can see that by adding these decorations, the city comes alive. And now I'm going to be doing that across the whole build, and this is what it looks like. We've decorated everything. We've added airships, we've added windows, we've added all kinds of things, and now we're going to do a fly through to see what that looks like. So you can see there's large collections of barrels and crates, and because this is a port city, there are just barrels and crates everywhere. People are leaving their stuff around. All kinds of stuff is happening. We've got carts, we've got wheels, we've got barrels, we've got lamps, we've got all these airships lined up on their little boardwalks. As you move through the streets, you can just see I put some chairs, some tables, there's bundles, there's the occasional fire pit to create some light. We've got some fancy pillars over there. There's some more carts, more airships, some buntings above your head. And then we've got this sort of tent area that's going to be a little like market stall. We've got some banners around and some benches. We're going across our bridge now, and you can see on your left there's the lovely entrance to the library. And here is a nice fire pit with some seats, and then to your right, which we're about to look at, is like the main marketplace. And there's only 2 stalls here, but they're nice and colourful. They've got these lovely awning decorations that are brand new in Alpha 10, and they look great. There's a little alleyway with some buntings there, and then we're moving to the front of the city, to the front of the main like town hall. We've got signposts telling you where to go, and once you've followed the path through towards the tower, you'll be arriving at the central market area where people are selling stuff out of the base of the tower, and it looks nice and busy with all kinds of stuff. I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you to one of my guildmates, Kadraya, who lent me a load of resources for this build to help me finish on time. So thanks very much. You are awesome. And that is the city finished. We have done, we've made the project a lot smaller than I originally intended, but what we've got here is a finished product. We've got lovely buildings, we've got lots and lots of details throughout the streets to make the whole city feel very alive, and we built those lovely column areas above that have all those crazy details, and I'm really actually happy with how it turned out. I do think it looks like a city and it looks really cool. So thank you very much for watching the whole series if you have, and when beta comes back, I don't know when that will be. Hopefully Islands will be carried over. If not, well, at least you can see it on the channel. And I'll be back in beta, probably building much smaller builds. I'm going to be focusing on details, and I'm going to be trying to make things that are a lot smaller. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
There's a Lowgy.